It happened on a couch, not during a fight, not in some big dramatic blowout, just a quiet moment. Two people, full from Thai takeout, a half-watched documentary playing in the background, and a kiss that caught me completely off guard. His lips were soft, gentle, and when we pulled away, he looked at me like I was something precious. Then he said it. "I think I'm falling for you, Brit." And my heart did this tiny, terrified backflip. Part of me wanted to melt, to say it back, to fall into him and let it all happen. But a louder voice, the one I'd been clinging to for months, screamed, "This wasn't the plan. I'm Brittany, 24 at the time." And 4 months earlier, I crawled out of a relationship that nearly suffocated me. Trent was controlling, jealous, the kind of guy who read your texts over your shoulder and asked where you were going even if you were just grabbing milk. When I left, I promised myself I was done with that kind of life. I needed time, space, chaos even. My friends jokingly called it my hoe phase. I called it freedom. Then Randall happened. He was in our friend group, just recently out of a relationship too. We started with coffee, harmless vent sessions about our messy exes. But then coffee turned into happy hours, movie nights, late-night texts that somehow always turned into conversations about everything and nothing. He had this dry, deadpan humor that always made me laugh when I least expected it. And he noticed things, tiny things. Like how I always picked the sesame balls from the dessert tray, or that I hated when people talked over me. Paige, my best friend, saw it coming way before I did. "He's so into you," she said, like painfully obvious. And maybe I saw it too. Maybe I felt it. But I kept telling myself, it's nothing. It's safe. It's just friendship with flirty undertones. I wasn't ready for real. So when Randall kissed me and I kissed him back, it felt amazing. Until he said those 6 words. "I think I'm falling for you." And instead of leaning in, I panicked, like full body panic. So I smiled, that fake trying to be kind smile, and I said the dumbest thing I've ever said in my life. "Randall, I think I could fall for you too. Seriously." He smiled, hopeful, soft. "But," I added, and that word, that but, it was the moment everything cracked. I'm just not ready for something real. Summer's around the corner. I kind of planned for it to be, my hot girl summer. Like my full freedom phase. I want to flirt, maybe dance on some bars, make a few bad decisions on purpose. You get it, right? I laughed, tried to make it sound cute, reasonable, empowered. But the look on his face, the way the light just left his eyes, told me I'd just made a mistake I couldn't undo. He nodded, said he understood. But everything changed. The warmth vanished. The air between us went cold. And I knew something precious had just slipped through my fingers. I thought I was being honest, smart, in control. But really, I'd just broken something neither of us would be able to fix. The silence after my ho phase declaration that night was heavy. Randall didn't argue or try to change my mind, just a tight-lipped nod, his eyes carefully avoiding mine. "Okay, Britt," he'd said, his voice strangely flat, devoid of its usual warmth. "I get it. You gotta do you." He even managed to smile, but it was a ghost of his real one, a polite mask that didn't reach his eyes. The rest of the evening was excruciatingly awkward. Our easy, laugh-filled banter vanished, replaced by stilted small talk about the documentary we weren't really watching. I remember babbling just to fill the silence, and he'd just nod. I left his apartment later feeling a bizarre mix, a surge of misplaced pride. Phew, handled that. Honesty for the win. And this nagging, uncomfortable something in my stomach I refused to label as unease, definitely not regret. He said he understood, right? He'd wait. Of course he would. He was Randall. He'd fallen for me. But things weren't the same, not even close. The next morning, my phone remained stubbornly silent. No good morning text from him, a small ritual I'd secretly cherished. When I finally texted him later that afternoon, a breezy, "Hey, still recovering from that documentary?" his reply took hours, and it was a curt, "Haha, yeah, busy day." Our constant stream of messages, the silly memes, the quick check-ins, the effortless back and forth that had become the comfortable soundtrack to my days, dwindled to a mere trickle, then practically dried up. Our hangouts. They went from being an almost daily, easy occurrence, just the two of us, to maybe once a week, and always, without exception, with other people from our friend group as a convenient buffer. I'd see him across a crowded bar, laughing with Dominic, that genuine, unreserved laugh that used to be for me. But with me, he was polite, excruciatingly, horribly polite. If I asked a direct question, his answer was concise, his eyes flicking away. No follow-up questions, no teasing, no lingering. It was like interacting with a friendly, well-meaning stranger, not the man who'd kissed me with such tenderness just days before. It felt like watching someone slowly, deliberately, back away from a crumbling cliff edge, and I was the unstable ground. I stubbornly told myself it was fine, perfectly fine. He just needed some space, that's all. Space to process his deep feelings for me, to adjust to my very clearly articulated timeline. He was probably just respecting my need for freedom, giving me room before our inevitable, amazing end-of-summer reunion. And honestly, I was busy. Or at least I was about to get busy. Summer was beckoning, a siren song of no-strings-attached fun, and my hot girl summer wasn't going to plan itself. I enthusiastically downloaded dating apps, my thumbs swiping with a thrill of adventurous curiosity. Paige and I started plotting epic girls' nights out, rooftop bars, cute outfits. This was exactly what I wanted, wasn't it? Unfettered freedom. No strings, no drama, just pure, unadulterated fun. My internal monologue was on a loop. This is your time, Brittany. Live it up. Paige, ever the pragmatist, tried to inject a dose of unwelcome reality one afternoon. We were dissecting my dating app matches over iced lattes when she frowned. "Brit," she started, in that tone that meant an uncomfortable truth was coming. "Are you absolutely sure about this Randall will just wait plan? He's a great guy. Like one of the good ones. What if he meets someone else while you're out there reigning as, queen of your hoe phase?" I waved a dismissive hand, laughing a little too loudly. "Oh, please, Paige. Don't be such a doomsayer. He told me he was falling for me. A guy doesn't just switch those feelings off. He'll hang back for a couple of months. It's hardly a lifetime. It's not a big deal." I struck a playful pose. "Besides, a girl's gotta have her wild phase. It's practically a rite of passage." She sighed, unconvinced, but knowing it was pointless to argue when I was this set on my path. Her doubt, though, was like a tiny, persistent pebble in my shoe. Irritating, but I was far too focused on my grand summer adventure. I was on a mission. Operation Unfettered Freedom. And Randall? He was just on pause. I was sure of it. He'd be there when I decided I was ready. June arrived, and I threw myself headfirst into Operation Unfettered Freedom. My Instagram, it became a masterpiece of curated joy. Pictures of me, mid-laugh, cocktail in hand at a chic rooftop bar, living my best life. Nanchimyuk hot girl summer running freedom. Conveniently forgetting to mention my date exclusively discussed his crypto portfolio. Sun-kissed beach selfies. Sun-kissed and single, wouldn't trade it. Beach days, no regrets. Carefully framed to exclude the guy who spent 2 hours detailing every modification on his Honda Civic. On social media, I was the epitome of carefree bliss. This was the fun I'd craved. The reality of my hoe phase, though, was less vibrant, more underwhelming. There was Car Guy, who, after an hour of my feigned fascination with his turbocharger, hadn't asked a single thing about me. My inner voice sniped. Randall would have asked about my presentation. This guy probably thinks I just magically appear with lattes. But I'd just smile because this was freedom, right? Then Crypto Bro earnestly tried to explain blockchain over tacos, eyes glazing when I didn't get it, before suggesting I get in on the ground floor of some new altcoin. I thought Randall would have made this funny, or at least changed the subject. And Mr. Just for Fun, honest about wanting nothing serious, delivered compliments that sounded scripted. I texted Paige after that one, well, an experience. Fun. I guess. The truth. A strange hollowness often settled in after these dates. I'd scroll through contacts, thumb hovering over Randall's name, wanting to share the absurdity, to laugh like we used to. But I wouldn't. He needed space. I needed to project an image of blissful independence. When our friend group did gather, usually for birthdays or barbecues, I'd pointedly regale everyone, Randall included, with exaggerated, hilarious dating disaster stories. I was fishing, of course, for his laugh, his witty commentary, any sign of my Randall. But now, a polite nod, a tight-lipped smile, then an excuse to get a drink or join another conversation. The shift was subtle to outsiders, maybe, but to me it was a constant, dull ache. I didn't realize how much I missed us, our easy friendship, his laughter, until Sarah's 4th of July barbecue. The sun was setting, fairy lights twinkled, burgers sizzled. I scanned the crowd, beer in hand, and saw him. Randall, not alone. He was by the drinks table, deep in conversation with a petite blonde I didn't recognize. She was laughing brightly, her hand resting familiarly on his arm. And Randall? Randall was smiling back. Not his polite, distant smile he saved for me. No, this was the real deal. The full wattage, eye-crinkling smile that used to make my stomach flip. He was completely, undeniably into her. A weird, hot, unfamiliar burn flared in my chest. I refused to call it jealousy. Ridiculous. This was what I wanted, right? Both single, mingling, having fun. He was free. So was I. But watching him look at her with that focused intensity he used to reserve for me, it made me want to march over, grab his arm, and hiss, "Hey, remember our end of summer plan? You're supposed to be waiting." I didn't, of course. I just chugged my beer, the bitter taste matching the sudden bitterness in my soul, and desperately looked for anyone else to talk to distract myself from Randall smiling at someone who wasn't me. This freedom suddenly felt a lot like being adrift, and for the first time I felt a genuine, sickening pang of something that felt suspiciously like a very big mistake. The summer weeks rolled on, each one a blur of forced smiles and meticulously documented fun for my Instagram followers. My grid showcased a vibrant, carefree Britney, clinking glasses on sunny patios, striking poses at music festivals I barely remembered, always with a new, interchangeable guy cropped artfully by my side. Making memories. Chiolo summer nights, I'd caption a photo, conveniently leaving out the part where the guy I was with spent the entire concert mansplaining the band's early discography to me, or the one who thought negging was a legitimate form of flirting. The truth was, the hoe phase was losing its already thin veneer of excitement. Each date felt more hollow than the last. I remember one guy, let's call him Finance Bro Mark, who seemed promising on paper. Good job, nice apartment, actually asked questions. But as he droned on about his stock portfolio, my mind drifted. Randall would be making fun of this guy with me right now, with just a shared look across the table. We'd have a whole silent conversation about it. Then I'd mentally slap myself. Stop it, Brittany, this is what you wanted. No attachments, remember. But the loneliness, a cold, creeping thing, was getting harder to ignore, especially when I saw updates from our friend group. Because while I was busy curating my image of a liberated goddess, Randall seemed to be genuinely living, not for an audience, but for himself. Paige would casually mention he'd gone on a fantastic hike, or Dominic would post a story from a new restaurant Randall had dragged him to. He even started those guitar lessons he'd talked about for ages. And then there was Hayley, the blonde from the barbecue. They weren't official, not in the Facebook status kind of way, but it was obvious to anyone with eyes. They'd arrive at group gatherings together, a quiet understanding passing between them. I'd see them across the room, her laughing at something he whispered, him gently tucking a stray strand of hair behind her ear. A small, unconscious gesture of affection that twisted something sharp in my gut. They'd sit close, not in a showy way, but with an easy, comfortable intimacy that radiated warmth. And they'd always leave together. These weren't grand pronouncements. They were tiny, infuriating pinpricks of evidence that they were becoming a we, while I was collecting mediocre anecdotes. One evening, on yet another forgettable date with a guy who seemed more interested in his phone than in me, I think he was live tweeting our meal, he actually looked up and said, with surprising perceptiveness, "You know, you're here, but you're also, like, a million miles away. Are you actually looking for fun, or are you just running from something?" I, of course, gave him a dazzlingly fake laugh, called him too deep for a Tuesday, and made my excuses to leave early. But his words stuck. Another irritating pebble in the now very uncomfortable shoe of my freedom. The breaking point, or at least the point where my carefully constructed denial started to seriously crumble, came at a late August pool party. The sun was blazing, music was thumping, and I'd had just enough sangria to feel bold. I saw Hayley head towards the house, presumably to the bathroom, leaving Randall momentarily alone by the drinks table. This was my chance. My heart hammered against my ribs as I sauntered over, trying for an air of casual indifference I was miles away from feeling. "Hey," I said, a little too brightly. "Fancy meeting you here?" He turned, a polite but guarded smile on his face. "Hey, Brittany!" The small talk was strained, filled with awkward pauses. Finally, I couldn't hold it in any longer. "So," I began, aiming for nonchalant but probably missing by a mile, "I thought you weren't really looking to jump into anything serious right now." His smile didn't waver, but his eyes were steady, unreadable. "I wasn't, really," he said simply, taking a sip of his beer. "But sometimes things just happen, naturally." Naturally. The word felt like a slap. "Oh," I said, trying to keep the tremor out of my voice. "So, Hayley, she's natural then. What's so special about her?" I cringed internally as soon as the words left my mouth. They sounded petty, childish, exactly like the jealous ex I swore I'd never be. Randall let out a slow sigh, the kind that spoke of deep, weary patience. He finally looked directly at me, and there was no warmth there, just a tired sort of resignation. "Brittany," he said, his voice low and even. "What do you want from me?" I faltered, the sangria-fueled bravado deflating like a popped balloon. All my carefully rehearsed lines, my witty comebacks, they all deserted me. I just... My voice trailed off. My eyes darted around, desperate. "Summer's almost over," I finally managed, the words a weak, hopeful plea. It was the closest I could get to reminding him of my stupid, self-imposed deadline, the one I was suddenly, desperately hoping he still remembered. He looked at me for a long, unblinking moment, his expression unreadable. My heart did a frantic tap dance. Was this it? Was he going to say he'd waited? Then, he said, his voice devoid of any particular emotion, "Yeah, it is." He picked up a fresh beer from the cooler, gave a curt nod, and walked away, back towards the spot where Hayley was now rejoining their friends, laughing and waving at him. Just like that. Summer was almost over, and apparently so were we, before we'd even begun. Labor Day weekend, the unofficial end of my ho-phase summer, which had been a blur of mediocre dates and a curated Instagram feed of forced fun. Then a picture, Randall and Hayley, radiant at a lake house. My end of summer deadline meant nothing. Panic clawed at me. I texted him, "Coffee, tomorrow?" He agreed. "Sure, 10 a.m.? Hope, treacherous and sudden, bloomed. I spent an hour getting ready, aiming for an effortless glow that took maximum effort, choosing a dress he'd once liked. He was already at Riley's, looking infuriatingly good. Polite, distant smile, guarded eyes. After awkward small talk, I plunged in. "Remember back in May," I began, heart thumping, "when you said how you felt, and I said I needed the summer, but maybe after we could try?" He nodded slowly. "Well," I leaned in, hopeful. "It's after summer. I've done a lot of thinking. I'm ready, Randall, for something real. With you." The silence stretched, thick with everything unsaid. He looked down at his coffee, then met my eyes, his expression gentle but devastatingly firm. "Brittany," he said, voice quiet. "I don't feel that way about you anymore." The air left my lungs. "What? Because of Haley?" He shook his head. "No, this started before her. When you told me you wanted to wait until after your hoe phase," he stumbled over the words, pain flickering in his eyes. Something inside me shifted. It made me see us differently. "But I was just being honest." My voice rose. A nearby couple glanced over. "And that's the problem, isn't it?" he said, an edge of steel in his low voice. "You expected me to pause my life, wait patiently while you dated others, then come running when you were ready. That's not fair, Brittany. Not how I want a relationship to start." "I never asked you to wait," I protested. "You assumed I would," he countered, gaze unwavering. "You wanted me as your backup plan. Do you know how that felt? To hear someone you're falling for basically say, 'You're good enough, but not right now. Not before I see what else is out there.'" "That's not what I meant," I insisted, sounding weak even to myself. "What did you mean?" he asked, weariness in his eyes. I just needed time." "And I needed someone sure about me," Randall stated, his voice firm but not unkind. "Haley, she was sure. From day one. No games, no waiting periods. She chose me, chose us, as a priority, not an afterthought." My throat tightened. "So that's it," I whispered. "I missed my chance for a few months of freedom?" He looked at me, a flicker of old warmth, then quiet finality. "You didn't miss a chance, Brittany," he said softly. "You made a choice." He glanced at his watch. "I should get going. Plans." He stood, dropped bills for the coffees, and with a brief, "Take care, Brittany," he walked out, leaving me alone with a cold latte, shattered pride, and the burning, disbelieving thought, how dare he move on before I was ready? It wasn't supposed to be like this. I was in control. I stumbled out of Riley's in a daze, Randall's final words, "You made a choice," ringing in my ears like a death knell for my carefully constructed fantasy. Wounded pride and a furious indignation churned within me. How dare he? How dare he not wait for my perfect timing? This wasn't how my grand plan was supposed to unfold. I was the one who decided when things were right, not him. The sheer unfairness of it all burned. My initial attempts over the next few weeks to get Randall's attention back, the carefully casual texts, the accidental appearances at places he might be, were all met with that same polite, infuriatingly distant wall. He wasn't biting. He wasn't even looking. My next brilliant idea was to make him jealous. For Lisa's birthday party, I brought Jake, my ridiculously hot gym trainer, as my date. I laughed too loudly, touched his arm constantly, ensuring Randall had a front row seat to my supposed happiness. It was a spectacular failure. Randall, utterly absorbed by a radiant Haley, seemed completely unbothered. Their shared smiles and easy intimacy a constant, painful jab at my failing charade. They were a picture of contentment, while I was just loud. The following morning, nursing a vicious hangover and an even more brutal ego bruise, I did something truly regrettable. I scrolled through my phone's photo library, back to a time when Randall's smiles were just for me. A sun-drenched picture of us from the previous summer, laughing, looking carefree, a relic from our just friends era, before I'd so spectacularly messed everything up. I posted it to my Instagram story, captioning it with a saccharine, "Missing simpler times with this one." And of course, I tagged him. It was a desperate, pathetic Hail Mary. It didn't take long for the explosion. Within an hour, my phone buzzed. A text from Randall. Not the wistful, oh wow, I missed those times too, I'd foolishly, pathetically hoped for. No. His message was cold, furious. Brittany, please take that photo down. Now! I tried to play innocent. Why? It's just a fun throwback pic. What's the big deal? His reply was instant, sharp as glass. You know damn well why. Haley saw it, and now I have to deal with the fallout. Just take it down. My fingers trembled as I reluctantly deleted the post, a knot of shame tightening in my stomach. But beneath that shame, a tiny, dark, utterly misguided flicker of satisfaction ignited. I'd caused a ripple. I'd gotten under his skin. Maybe, just maybe, if things got rocky between him and Haley because of this, he'd remember me. He'd remember what we could have had. That small, toxic thought was the only comfort I could find, a grim, chilling indicator of how far I was falling and how much further I still had to go.